Season 5 was, quite frankly, a disaster. It has driven many ladder players away from wanting to play Overwatch altogether, and naturally, the question a lot of players have now is, did Season 6 do anything better? I know that it's way too early to draw any conclusions when it comes to how this season is playing out. However, I've been trying to put as many hours into competitive as possible in an attempt to get a rough idea for how I feel about these changes they made to the system. Anything from placing really closely to your MMR, changing King of the Hill to a best of 3 rather than best of 5, hero changes, and so on. Today I want to give my early impressions on how I feel about all of these things, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's kick things off with the hero changes. Doomfist, I feel, was hit a bit too hard by the nerf hammer, or well, more so the fix hammer, I guess. Saying that the change to his right-click hitbox was unnecessary would be a blatant lie. However, I tried to play Doomfist, and I mean I really tried to have fun playing him, but I just can't enjoy him anymore. And this does not come down to, oh, he's not broken, so he must be useless now. Something I've complained about forever is the netcode in Overwatch. It just does not feel consistent. Very often you feel like abilities that should connect are not connecting, and vice versa. As Hanzo, I'm often very well aware when I just scored a kill that was absolute BS and quite frankly should not happen. With Doomfist now, I just get into way too many situations where I feel like my abilities should connect, but they don't, and that made playing him very frustrating. Junkrat, I feel, got some well-deserved love. The main reason players around Master and GM refused to pick him up was because his damage is simply not reliable enough. Now that he has 2 mines to throw out, he can finish off low health targets reliably, which is definitely a huge buff. Not to mention that his ultimate is absolutely crazy now. Maybe a little bit too crazy. However, I've been spending a lot of time playing Junkrat and playing against Junkrats, and I never felt like he was broken. Sure, annoying maybe, but nothing that automatically wins games by any means, so that's a good change in my book. Seeing more Widowmakers now is actually far more annoying to me than having to deal with junk spam, but that simply comes down to me thinking that she's a very unfun character to play as and against, and that will probably never change. I feel similarly for Orissa. While I don't think the buff to her shield makes her necessarily broken, she is one of the most annoying characters in this game in my opinion, which is why I don't take too kindly in seeing her more often now. As for Roadhog, I'm yet to see really good Roadhog players who make use of his buffs in a smart way, which makes it difficult to comment for me. The fact that he can survive pulse bombs and even Diva's ultimate with ease might seem a little broken initially, but again, so far I haven't had a lot of trouble dealing with Hawk players. Moving on to actual system changes. The fact that the season is now 60 instead of 90 days long, well, that's obviously something I cannot really comment on until the season is over. Is it gonna feel too short? Who knows? When it comes to the K, I am really happy for everyone else that these changes were made. However, for me, it's not that great. And for that point, I will bring up the placement process as well. So after your placements, you are now going to rank very closely to where your MMR is rather than being offset about 200 SR lower. What's frustrating about this for me personally is that the magical queue time changes for Master and GM players don't really seem to do anything for me. My matches often still feel very unbalanced, which makes losing ever the more frustrating. And the problem with placing where my MMR is that I keep losing more elo than I gain. My ult account, for example, placed 1 victory away from GM and, well, I got it into GM. But that win only got me 19 elo, which, given that it is within the top 1 to 3% of the player base, is actually not too shabby. But I would lie if I said I don't get frustrated over only winning 19 but losing 21. That means yes, I was part of the minority who enjoyed playing themselves back up the ranks again with the help of SR bonuses, which is why I usually let one of my 2 accounts decay at any given time. It didn't do anything to my MMR, and it made me feel way more satisfied when climbing back up again, rather than playing the 60% win rate matchmaking lottery. Needless to say that, again, for me personally, the changes to the K are not that great, because that means I have to wait longer to get that satisfaction. Now I know that this does not apply to the absolute vast majority of you guys out there, because the point is usually to keep ranking up. However, for me, I am content with calling myself a master player. I don't find a lot of value in trying to grind myself up into GM, and again play the matchmaking lottery in hopes of staying there. Which is why I always found great pleasure in playing myself back up from decay. Whether you agree with this or not is obviously up to you. Now, what about King of the Hill? Well, as someone who absolutely loves payload and hybrid and absolutely despises King of the Hill as well as 2CP, I like the change. There is an argument to be made in favor of having it be best of 5 rather than best of 3. If you think about it, it makes it more competitive. Both teams have to prove that they can outplay the others consistently rather than getting a lucky win and a half. So yes, I would agree to say that it sucks for those who feel cheated off of the opportunity to reverse sweep into a 3-2. However, again, since for me it's more about playing competitive matches that I enjoy, I don't hate it. If I get stomped, the game only takes 10 minutes and I can move on to the next one. The matches don't feel as drawn out anymore, which means I get annoyed far less often. I mean, as much as you might say that you love the feeling of coming back into a reverse sweep, didn't you feel really crappy when playing 5 rounds of King of the Hill with 5 separate 99 percentages on the point just to lose in the end? At least that's not a thing anymore. And that, in fact, happened to me fairly frequently, which is why I am all for the change. But again, whether you like it or not is obviously up to you. So let's summarize all my thoughts to wrap the video up. The hero changes to me make the game feel way more versatile than ever before. I am personally encountering far more variations on ladder with players trying out wildly different comps just to see what works. In that regard, I definitely think they nailed it. Whether or not we will settle into some sort of meta, I cannot tell at this time, but I do very much enjoy not seeing the same 2 comps in every match. As for the placement matches, well, I was not surprised over where I placed. I was pretty sure I knew where my MMR was all along. I can see how that would be interesting for someone who was unsure, but for me, I feel like we just did an arbitrary set of 10 matches to straight fall back into the mid-season grind. I have heard from lower elo players in my Discord that they actually get pretty decent SR gains, but from anyone in GM that I have talked to, the opposite was the case. I seem to be an odd case in this regard that I feel so bothered by losing more SR than I gain, and I am willing to accept that, but yeah, I'm not too keen on the whole placing where your MMR is thing, because I did enjoy bonus SR gains very much. In the same vein, I'm obviously not a huge fan of the new decay system personally. However, what I do really like about it is that we might now see less players in high elo who only play to keep the decay at bay, because those players usually tilt very quickly over things like one-tricks or throwers. So anything to keep these people happy in that regard is what I say. When it comes to the whole thing where they said high elo players would see longer queue times to make sure matches are more balanced, I either got the wrong memo and it's not on live yet, or it's kind of a joke. Any stream I've watched, any person I have asked, and any session I have played myself had very unbalanced matches in high elo. 4100 players competing with 3700s, 4400 players being expected to carry a team of 3500s, and so on. It feels just as much all over the place as it did before, which is very frustrating. All in all, I would say we are going in the right direction. The game feels way more fresh than the previous season. I see way more variety in hero comps, and nobody can complain about being placed too low anymore because we all place according to our MMR. But hey, that's just what I think about the changes. My opinion is not any more or less valid than anything you guys have to say, so do sound off down in the comment section below and let us know how you feel about Season 6 so far. But until then, this is me done for the day as I talk about my first impressions of the Season 6 changes in Overwatch. If you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to drop me a like on your way out, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope to see you all next time.